All right, so today we have a 2007 Volkswagen Passat with the FSI engine, and it's got the automatic transmission. All right, so what we're doing on this car, we're doing a thermostat. The engine temperature, when you go for a drive with the scan tool, you notice that the temperature does not reach at least 90 degrees Celsius. Usually when they're new, they're around 90 to 95 degrees Celsius. And so in order to replace the thermostat on an engine like this, there might be another way, maybe if you remove the intake manifold, but I don't want to mess around with the injectors and then cause a fuel injection leak and stuff like that. So that I rather not remove the intake manifold for that. So the way I do it, I remove the intake, the intercooler pipe, the one that goes from the bottom of the intercooler. This is the bottom of the intercooler, up to the top where the throttle body is. You got to make sure you unplug the pressure sensor on the intercooler. Just make sure, and there's two bolts here that you remove. And also you have to remove the alternator. You got to make sure that the alternator, the bushings, when you want to reinstall the alternator, gonna make sure that these bushings are pushed in as far as possible. Not as far as possible, I mean maybe less than a millimeter, because the gap here is too tight when you're gonna put this alternator back on the bracket. See, this is the bracket here. Yeah, so the cat is complaining here. Okay. All right, and so these see this bracket here, the alternator has to fit on here. But usually when you remove it, you got to take a pry bar and then remove it from that bracket. So one way to do that is you got to push them on. But first you got to take a torch with a small flame and heat up the bushing a little bit and spray some lubricant. And then when you do, you reinstall the bolts, and then you just tread them until it almost touches, and then you make sure you hit on the bolt, but you make sure that this side is supported by let's say on the vise, like this, like on the corner of a vise. Just make sure, because this is very easy to break. It's it's cast aluminum, very easy to break. So you don't want to push it too much, just very slightly, and then you spray some lubricant. So when the bolt is adjusted back, when you tighten these two bolts, they push back on the bracket. But it happened to me once that these bushings were so stiff that it broke this bracket going in. So you gotta make sure that is okay. And this is the thermostat on this particular model. Okay, so its thermostat is in here. So you gotta install the whole flange and everything on this model. And so you have to remove the belt tensioner. Okay, so this is the belt tensioner. Then again, like I said, you remove the alternator, the pipe, and you unplug the connectors. And what I did here, the alternator positive terminal is taped with duct tape, just to make sure that it doesn't ground anywhere. You could unplug the battery, but I rather just put some tape on there so I don't lose the clock setting and all that, so it creates a lot of fault. And so anyway, and at the bottom here, there is a quick connector on that flange for the thermostat. If you look at the bottom, there's a quick connector, and there is that water pipe, and there's an O-ring. This one I'm going to replace. There is also an O-ring in here. Depends on the mileage of the car. It's probably a good idea to replace the O-ring inside that quick connector. But I'm going to replace this one on the water pipe. It's a small O-ring. And so I'm going to put it back in. I'm going to, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of silicone. This is the old one there. But I'm going to put a little bit of oil pan silicone that I use on the oil pan. I'm going to put a little bit here because I don't want to have any leak on the block side of it. So I'm going to put this here. And then again, you just got to make sure you put the G12, the proper coolant. Never put the green or blue or other color. Make sure it's the G12, it's pink in color. And that's about it. And then again, you got to make sure that the cap, the O-ring, like I mentioned on a previous video, there is an O-ring here. Got to make sure that O-ring is in good shape, and also make sure that it's in that groove, because sometimes that O-ring could be pushed towards, you know, in that hole, so then it won't seal because it has to seal here. So if you put the cap on and then that O-ring is either not there or is just pushed out of the groove, then the engine will overheat and the coolant will blow, you know, because it's not going to be sealed. Other than that, so that's what you have to do. There might be another way to install a thermostat on a particular engine like this, but this is the easiest way. Also, this water pipe here, this one is bolted at 2 locations. There's a bracket on the bottom there. Okay, there's one there. There's 2 screws that holds their 12 pointed head. I'm not sure which size they are. I think there are 5. So that's Torx or XZN. So this is this type of tool you need to remove. There's 2 of them, and there's also a Torx T30, I think it is. But these are the one that holds the thermostat into place. These 2 here, and that's about it. I think that's got that covered. So and we replaced this on this particular car. We had a crankcase ventilation issue. The car was sucking. You know, when we removed the cap, the engine was idling. We had a hard time pulling the cap from the valve cover, and now I put another one in. That's a good second-hand one I had. I just put it in there, but there is an extension warranty on these particular vehicles. I know in Canada for sure, but you gotta check with your local dealer and tell them this is the PCV system or the crankcase ventilation. See, that pipe connects to the intake manifold. And you just gotta ask them. I think it goes up to 8 years and 190,000 kilometers. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this. But anyway, this particular part has an extended warranty. So this is how you check it. You make sure the vehicle is idling, and you remove the cap. And if you feel a little bit of suction, that's okay. But if you have a hard time removing the cap, then you know you have an issue with this. So we put, because these thing had at least 3 versions of part numbers since this engine exists from 2006. So anyway, so that's going to be that for today.